Welcome to Sasquatch and Sourdough, the podcast where we embark on a journey into the depths of the unknown.
The mystery of life.
Weaving together threads of ancient scripture.
What do you mean, biblical?
Tales of high strangeness.
Tell them about the Twinkie.
Whether you're a seeker of truth.
We believe it's the heart of the house.
Or simply hungry for a good story.
What about the Twinkie?
Sasquatch and Sourdough invites you to join us on a journey of discovery, wonder, and deliciousness.
They feel your methods, your theories are
Spooky.
So grab your backpack, sharpen your senses,
Do you think I'm spooky?
and prepare to explore the sacred mysteries of our highly strange world like never before.
And that is the whole problem with aliens.
Hello. Well, welcome back to Sasquatch and Sourdough. I am your host, Christina, and I am joined by the fire with my beautiful best friend, Crystal. Not Christina. We're back together. Yay!
We're doing it.
And it feels so good. So tonight is actually apparently the planet parade.
Heard that.
And we're outside, and I don't quite know exactly where they are.
Well, we're definitely not astronomers,
Correct.
but the sky is very clear, and I'm seeing more stars in Baltimore tonight than I've seen in a very long time.
Isn't that amazing?
Yeah.
It's kind of like really cool. So I don't know. Yeah. I guess we'll find out as the night goes on, but we're outside by the fire.
And they start to align.
Yeah.
It should be very obvious.
I would
the
imagine.
alignment.
So, yeah. We're finally back in recording. February is almost over.
Today's
Thank
the last
God.
day.
Oh my God.
Not a leap year.
No, February was ridiculous. Everything happened in
The
February.
month of the sick.
Yeah, everybody gets sick.
The month of the sickness.
Several people died.
Oh, I know.
Like all that happened. Like
yeah, like you were talking about people that died. and
Yeah.
I knew people that died. Not like directly.
No,
but
it was
people
a-
that I know had people that died.
yeah, it was a rough month. So we've had to cancel and reschedule and cancel and reschedule. I had to cancel like every other guest that I had lined up for this show.
Oh,
And then a couple people that I was supposed to be on one today with
Oh.
Shell from Shell Spooky Stories. She's starting like a whole new, like having guests on.
Oh, okay.
And she has a headache. So like everyone's getting sick. So Shell, if you're listening, we love you.
We love you.
I hope you put that. I told her to put a lavender compress.
Oh, that's a good
She's
one.
in England, so she has all this like lovely lavender everywhere.
Nice.
I know. So yeah, we're back in action. And we weren't really sure. We had kind of an idea for this episode.
We're just gonna wing it.
I think we're just gonna wing it. Yeah, we wanted to do like I don't know, like winter wild men.
I do have a couple wintry stories.
Oh
Yeah, like Inuit stories and
yes.
wintry monsters
Oh yes, the wintry monsters.
and wintry just like scary stories.
Okay.
Historical stories.
Oh, I like that.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. All right. Do you want to roll into it?
Sure.
Do you have? Oh yeah. All right. Get your phone.
Yeah.
Is there
me
any?
quickly
I'm
look.
trying to think if there's any like housekeeping stuff. Yeah. Just keep. Oh my gosh. Also, thank you so much for everyone. We have a lot of new followers on Instagram again.
Oh,
We're
great.
like over 850.
Wow.
Oh, and celebrate. We had 1,000 downloads on Buzzsprout.
Oh, that's
So that's
amazing.
exciting because
So Christina always keeps track of this stuff. I don't. So when she tells me things, I'm like, oh.
surprise. Yeah, we hit that and I was like, what? Because we only have like 20-ish episodes.
Yeah.
So 1,000 downloads. Thank you guys so much. You guys are so loyal and you like to listen. So please Send us some feedback. Definitely email the show so we can get to know who you are, because otherwise you're just out there in the ether.
Yeah. And we like to know what we're doing right and what we're doing wrong and what you're interested in, you know?
Yeah,
If we could
definitely.
get some constructive criticism on what's boring and what's fun.
Exactly.
That would be great.
Outside of any sort of technical, again, I don't want to hear your technical complaints.
We're not technical.
You can.
Well, Christina is. I'm not.
Yes, but this is my leisure time, so you can take your constructive complaints and shove them in a sack. I love you.
All right. So, do you want to talk about some Frozen Frights?
Yes.
Frozen Frights.
Oh.
All right. So, it's the end of winter. Winter's wrapping up. Spring's just around the corner. We're all excited.
Can't wait.
So, when you think about winter, you think about isolation, coldness. You don't really see many people. You're in your house.
Mhm.
You're comfy. It's a modern age, so we have to eat. And we're good. We're not starving. You know, we're okay.
No, but we're cozy.
But when you look back in times past, I think most ghost stories come from the winter because of how isolating and dangerous the winter is. So honestly, the human culture is going to view the winter season as a more terrifying season. So there's a bunch of really cool stories that I found just, you know, perusing the internets. There's one of my favorites is the Dyatlov Pass incident. I don't know if you know this one.
Oh, I don't know this one.
Oh, really?
Mm-hmm.
Oh, this one's great. From 1959. It's perhaps one of the most infamous winter horror stories in history. It occurred in Russia's Ural Mountains. 9 experienced hikers, led by Igor Dyatlov, ventured into the Urals during February 1959. What followed remains one of the most perplexing mysteries in modern history. The group never returned from their expedition, prompting a search party. What rescuers discovered defied logical explanation. Their tent had been torn from the inside out, and the hikers' bodies were found scattered across the snow.
Ooh.
Some partially dressed, others in just their underwear, despite temperatures of minus 30 degrees.
Oh, I feel like
Fahrenheit.
I have heard this, yeah.
Yep. Most disturbing were the injuries. One victim had crushed ribs with no external trauma. Another's tongue was missing, and several had high levels of radiation on their clothes. The official investigation concluded that an unknown compelling force had caused their deaths. To this day, theories range from military testing to infrasound-induced panic, but no explanation fully accounts for all of the evidence. So what happened to these people?
That is,
It's one of my favorites. I've done some deep dives on this one.
what's the big conspiracy theory?
Well, the big conspiracy theory is that they were hypothermic. And do you know when you go into hypothermia, you get really warm?
Yes.
You get hot and you actually start undressing because you go crazy. And that happens sometimes to the hikers that go up, what's that mountain?
Everest.
Everest, yeah. They try to undress because you get really hot right before you die, so you start stripping off your clothes.
I wonder if it's like an adrenaline. I could feel.
I don't know what it is.
I feel like I would probably do that.
It's like a physiological
Yeah.
thing. But so that's one of the explanations. Another explanation is that something came into their camp and terrified them, and they all took off running to get as far away as they possibly could.
Mm-hmm.
And once they got away, they became hypothermic and started taking off their clothes. I don't know. It's completely a mystery.
What does this remind me of? This reminds me of a movie.
There were a bunch of movies designed after this incident.
Oh, there's one. I'm blanking.
I don't know, but
Not The Terror.
Oh yeah, so that's another story I want to talk about.
Oh yeah,
but
no, that's why it's
that's
fresh in my head.
fictional. Yeah,
Wait, what's the one?
I don't know.
They were I feel like they were in Alaska or Antarctica.
You might be thinking of the plane crash with
No, this was they were at a base and.
Oh, are you thinking about The Thing?
Yes, I'm thinking.
John Carpenter's The Thing.
Exactly what this.
My
yes.
favorite horror movie that's ever been created.
Yes,
Yeah.
that's exactly. Yes.
Yeah, it's the best. It's something I will watch every year.
The original or the remake?
Are you kidding me? You know me. Do you know me? The original.
with what's his name?
Kurt Russell.
Yeah, it's Kurt Russell.
He's like the master,
God.
the man.
That's exactly what this reminds me of.
Yeah.
Oh,
So it could be the thing. That's one explanation.
there's like that Kurt Russell meme. It's from the thing that's going around where it's just like, yeah, this is.
So that's an alien. the thing is a parasitic alien that gets inside of your bloodstream and can change
Oh
you
yeah, okay.
into
This is totally
different
different.
things.
All right, never mind.
But anyway, so
I totally digress.
we digress. So another theory is that it was aliens because of the radiation.
Right.
So they think maybe they were abducted in some way and they were dropped back into where they came from. Because you know how that happens sometimes in like Missing 411?
Yeah.
Where people will disappear for a while and then whoever took them is like done with them and they just drop them back
And then there's
into their
also-
plane of existence.
Yeah.
Like half dressed or in different clothing.
Or the clothing is folded. That's
Yeah.
another like
Yeah.
really weird detail that always like
Yeah.
kind of is in that thread. Yeah.
People disappear and their clothes are just left there.
Yeah.
Like they were evaporated out of their clothing. Yeah. But their bodies were all found in various degrees of trauma.
Yeah.
Like the one person's ribs were crushed. It's crazy. So that's one story. Another story is the Donner Party. Who doesn't know the Donner Party?
We were talking about the Donner Party before we were interrupted by all of our children. I just want to say, like, I can't believe, honestly, like, that we learned about the Donner Party in, like, 4th grade.
Yeah.
I feel like.
Yeah.
Right?
Well, it was important. We were learning about the America and,
Yeah.
you know, the pioneers and what they had to go through to get to, you know, different locations and migrate.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Before you jump in, though, do you remember SLC Punk?
Mm-hmm.
Remember that was, like, a big...
When they were tripping and
they
they were
were-
talking about the Donner Party.
like, that's...
Yeah.
All right, so that's my second memory of learning about the Donner Party. Hopefully yours is actually filled with facts.
Well, it's just this short little snippet. But, so they were 87 pioneers that were set out for California, and they took an untested shortcut through the Sierra Nevada mountains that proved to be disastrous. And the interesting part about this, I actually watched a really good PBS documentary on this. PBS, whoop whoop.
Oh, PBS is great.
So, there was this, like, flim-flam man that was like, I'm gonna take all of your money and give you this great map that hasn't actually been tested, and I just kind of made it up. And I'm gonna send you guys through this mountain pass, and it's way too late in the season because you've already been, I mean, if you ever played
Oregon Trail.
Oregon Trail,
Yep.
you know that wheels broke,
Mm-hmm.
cows died, you got stuck in the river, you know, people were dying from malaria left and right, or whatever.
No, dysentery. And
Dysentery,
if you were
yeah.
out there, I mean, that's how we remember it. But I mean, if you were out there at a certain time, like forget
Yeah.
it. Like you're not
So
going
they
to
were-
trek back.
They were too far behind schedule to go through the mountains, and they didn't understand how long it was going to take. So they got stuck in the mountains, in the snow, and there was no way for them to get out. So the only way they could survive was by eating each other. So according to survivor accounts and later archaeological evidence, the group resorted to cannibalism to survive. They first consumed the bodies of those who naturally died, and as weeks turned to months, more desperate measures were taken. Of the original 87 members, only 48 survived.
Wow.
Let's see. The Donner Memorial State Park is now known as a really great like camping site where people like to go camp where people cannibalize each other. I mean, I can understand it. It's like dark tourism, you know what I mean?
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah. But locals report strange phenomena, particularly during the winter months.
Ugh.
Yeah.
I don't know, man. I don't know. It's just one of those situations that I really pray never to be in.
I know.
Like,
Yeah. It's one of my favorite stories. I don't know why.
well, I think for me, it's like when we learned about it, it was just one of those like, it was like the first really eerie thing you learned about,
Yeah.
you know?
Yeah, definitely.
And I don't think like at that age you can really even comprehend what that entails. Like,
No, having to resort to
Ugh,
eating your
jeez Louise.
people that you've been traveling with for months. Yeah, that's crazy.
Ugh.
So this is another quick one. There's a snowbound serial killer named Robert Hansen in 1971 through 1983 in Anchorage, Alaska.
Ooh.
So Robert Hansen used winter's isolation to commit horrific crimes. Taking advantage of Alaska's long, dark winters, Hansen would kidnap women, fly them into the wilderness in his private plane, and hunt them like game through the snow.
Yes, this is actually on
That's crazy.
something on Netflix.
Yeah.
I just
Did you watch it?
Yeah, what it was, it Unsolved Mysteries. Oh, what was it? It was something on, I just like rewatched this entire series.
Oh, I know what you're talking about,
Yeah.
but I can't remember what it's called.
Oh man, it wasn't Unsolved Mysteries because it's obviously solved.
So it says for
Ugh.
over 12 years, Hansen murdered at least 17 women, though the actual number may be higher. So the snow preserved the evidence that would later convict him, including bodies and shell casings. There was one survivor named Carol Christensen.
Yes.
She provided testimony that led to his capture.
Oh, I just watched this when I was sick.
Oh, really?
Yes,
It's cool.
because that's what you do.
Because that's what you
Just when you're
do.
just recuperating in February when I get cozy and listen to something terrible. Oh yeah, she was actually really. She played a significant role in kind of getting him.
Getting him captured.
Ugh,
Yeah.
what an awful person.
So at the basis of these stories is basically these psychological ramifications of winter isolation. Experts in environmental psychology note that winter isolation can have severe effects on human behavior and perception. Studies of these cases reveal common patterns: increased paranoia and anxiety, distorted time perception, heightened sensitivity to sounds and movements, and altered decision-making skills or abilities.
Yeah.
So yeah, that's my creepy winter isolation.
I mean, you got to think about that. Like, not only is it cold and, yeah, everyone's kind of like inside. I mean,
Yeah.
we did have a touch of that. In Maryland, we had kind of a decent winter this year.
We did. We had a really good
You know,
winter this year.
We had
Yeah.
some significant snowfall, but I just saw a shooting star.
Oh,
Aw.
I missed
Yay.
it.
But we didn't really have I feel like the only winter in my memory is like the blizzard of 96. Like that was when
Yeah.
things like shut down.
Mhm.
I mean, snow was up to like you couldn't get out your door.
Yeah.
And for Maryland, that's significant, but I could never imagine living somewhere where that's just like tried and true, like what you live with.
Yeah. Like Alaska.
I can only imagine that would probably make you really super isolated.
Yeah.
Yeah. Ugh.
Yeah.
It's terrible.
I don't know. Like, winter is always one of those times a year when you really get in your home and you're with your family, and to pass the time, you read stories.
Yeah.
And you watch documentaries. And I feel like a lot of, I don't know. I feel like you gain a lot of, like, I don't know what I'm
It's
trying
like
to say.
it's almost restful, I think. It's almost
Yeah.
like just that, because it almost to me, and at least for like what I mean, not that we like model this, but I always try to like make it plain to my son, like, everything it seems dead except
Mhm.
for like the evergreens and like our grass
Yeah.
and stuff like that, but like there's so much happening dormantly under the ground. Like things are still
Mhm.
growing, things are still kind of
Yeah.
even though they're still resting, they're gonna come up in the spring. Like there's still that hope, but
Mhm.
living in a place that is just like so cold.
I like the traditions of the Nordic people.
Yeah.
Where they practice something called heat. I don't know how to pronounce it, but it's Hygee.
Oh,
It's like-
hig.
Okay,
Yeah, it's like
yeah.
hig. Mhm.
And it's all about resting.
Mhm.
Like, you're purposefully coming into the house early. You're resting. You're eating soup. You're reading books, and you're just recuperating.
You're getting that rhythm
Mhm.
of like nature, and like that's what winter.
Because
is
there's
all
nothing
about.
else to do. You can't really go outside unless you're like skiing or something.
Right. I feel like a lot of people, it's really interesting because like a lot of people kind of rushed into, I guess for me this year, like everyone was running into like you know, what do we, like, New Year's resolutions, all that sort of stuff.
Yeah.
Like, and I was just kind of purposely like, yeah, we wrote a list on like our family blackboard, and it was ridiculous. Like, I was like, I'm not rushing into like hiking more, because obviously I'm not going to probably do that.
It's 10 degrees.
You know, right. Like, I'm not going to, you know, rechange or, you know, retrain my brain in any way, like, physically, I guess.
Yeah.
But, like, so we just kind of had, like, fun ones. So I said that I wanted to make friends with crows.
Oh, that's definitely one of my life goals.
Well, let me tell you something. Apparently, it's much easier than you would ever imagine.
They're
so,
very
like,
intelligent.
it's really funny, because, like, I put that on the blackboard, and then, of course, intern Rob, his goal, like, the next day was to make enemies with crows.
Oh, geez.
So before we actually had like a good winter, you know, in January, like, you know, end of January into February or whatever, like we had this kind of like, well, in Maryland we have full spring where we've got like maybe a week of like 50 degree weather, and you're like, okay, this is great. I'm gonna go outside. Like, I feel like, you know, everything is kind of, that's it. That's all we're gonna get.
Nope.
And he did surprise me, and he bought me a crow call.
Aww.
So I have been like going outside every morning, and we have a lot of crows this year. I don't know what it is,
Yeah, I've seen a lot of crows around.
but I've been calling the crows.
Oh,
My
good.
neighbors are probably like, what is she doing? It's 7 a.m, and I'm just out there like, boop, boop, like calling my, But the cool thing is, like, if you do that, and then like, so I'll put out peanuts and stuff like that, and like they love, apparently, I guess it's like that, it's just like black seeds. They like love like black seeds. So like I put all that stuff out, and they'll come around, but I don't know how he did it, but he undermined all of that, and he ended up calling a bunch of blue jays.
Oh, and they're bullies.
And they're terrible.
Yeah.
And so, like, I would put peanuts out. I would come out and, like, call my crow friends and just be like, hello. Like, I don't know.
Here's an offering.
Hello, friends. I am here. Please recognize me. I'm calling you. Here's your food. Here's your bounty.
Eat my black seed.
Here, eat your peanuts. And then literally, like, 2 minutes later, here comes a stupid blue jay. Like, diving into every crow.
Yeah, what a jerk.
And taking all the blue... And they... they're awful.
They're jerks.
All the peanuts. So, yeah, that's what we've been doing. But no, crows.
Well, it's actually said that, like, the worst time of the year to make a resolution is New Year's. Because you're dead in the middle of winter.
No, it's ridiculous.
And nobody's doing anything.
No.
Like, our calendar is all wrong. Why is the first day of the year in the middle of winter?
No. Like, yeah, exactly. It should not be that way.
It should be spring. Spring should be, like... And to me, that's the beginning of the year. Like, in my body.
Exactly.
You know?
Like, we're not
Your body
listening.
feels like it's waking up and it's alive when spring comes, when everything starts to grow again.
And I'll say that. Like, I actually felt a lot better. Not, like... This was the first year that I wasn't like, okay, I'm going to do this, 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 and this. And
it makes no sense. You should be relaxing in the winter.
So I've kind of been doing this, like, whole respite. Like, just, we're chilling out. And, I mean, outside of... I don't know what happened. But of course, like, on Instagram, everybody in February is just like, ugh, February.
Well, I'm a January baby, and everybody hates my month.
I know.
I don't know what that is. So many years, it was, let's go out for Crystal's birthday. Oh, never mind, everyone's doing dry January. Like, thanks.
But also, I'm staying in my home because there's no natural threat. There's no reason. It's just cold. Like, meh.
Everyone hates my birthday month. Meh. All right.
Yeah, do you have one more?
Yeah, I want to talk a little bit about something else.
Okay.
So, there's these I found this, it's called Alaskan Folklore, 5 Mythical Creatures of the Last Frontier, and it was written by Terry Toombs. This was written in 2012. So anyway, I'm gonna butcher these names, because I can't.
Oh, yeah.
I can't.
Just that, yeah.
So the first one is called a Qalupalik. Qalupalik. It's Qalupalik. And it's a creature of Inuit legend, described as being human-like and having green skin with long hair and very long fingernails.
Ooh.
This one's really cool. So this kind of harkens back to our mermaid episode. Yes. So she lives in the sea, and she hums to entice children to come closer to the water, and wears an okay, I'm gonna butcher it. Amotik. It's Amautik. Basically, it's the parkas that the Inuit women used to wear to hold their children against their backs. It's like a built-in baby pouch.
Yeah.
Okay, so parents and elders would tell their children that if they were disobedient or wandered too close to the shore, the Qalupalik would come on shore, put them in her Amautik, and take them back to the sea with her to raise them as her own children, never to see their family again. So if you ever are standing on the shore of the Arctic Ocean and hear a woman humming, run. I thought that was such a cool story.
Oh, I feel like that's in, I have a book called Freaky Folklore.
Yeah.
I think that's in there.
Yeah.
Ooh.
So there's another one called the Alaska Bushmen, or the Tornit, Tornit. Stories of the Alaska Bushmen, or Tornits, have been told since the first humans crossed the Bering Land Bridge. In the beginning, the story goes that the Inuit and the Tornits lived peacefully in villages near each other, and they shared common hunting grounds. The Inuit people often built and used kayaks for hunting, while the Tornits were unable to master the building of kayaks. The story goes that a young Tornit borrowed a young Inuit's kayak without permission and damaged the bottom of it. The young Inuit became very angry and stabbed the Tornit in the nape of the neck while he was sleeping. The rest of the Tornits feared that they too would be killed by the Inuits, so they fled, and they were rarely seen again. Since that time, many stories have come out of the bush. Hunters disappearing, later found dead and mangled, never seen again, blah, blah, blah. Apparently, hunters and the Tornits no longer lived peacefully and shared common grounds.
Oh.
This is really neat. So it goes on to explain this guy's own story that he has of it from being a child and growing up.
Mm-hmm.
And he used to fish, and he said, "My own father was always armed with a Colt 45, and now he unsnapped the holster and quietly told us to rear in our gear and pack up. Since we'd only been fishing for about an hour, and it wasn't anywhere near dark, all of us kids were a little confused, but knowing not to question our dad when they gave us an order. I whispered to my dad, asking what was wrong, and he whispered, 'Bear.' But I wasn't so sure. I had never smelled a bear like that. As we were crossing over the railroad bridge, I remember looking at some trees that had been uprooted and then stuck in the ground upside down.
Oh.
I often wondered why and how someone could do that. I learned many years later that was a telltale sign of Bigfoot territory.
Oh my gosh.
I guess I'll never know if that was a bear or a Bigfoot that displaced us from fishing, but I do know that was the last time our families ever fished that river. It was also the first and only time all of us kids got to sleep in the camp trailer instead of the tents."
And where was that?
That was another Alaska story.
Oh,
These
yeah.
are all Alaska stories.
We have a little bit of a collection of Alaska stories on the website.
Oh, yeah?
There's a lot of, I haven't really been good about putting them up, but when you go and look into them, there's a good amount of, at least obviously UFO activity, but still a good amount of Bigfoot.
Well, there's the Alaska Triangle. Have
Yes,
you heard of that?
yeah.
That's one of my favorite things.
It's crazy.
People disappear.
Exactly.
There's UFO sightings. There's planes disappear.
Yeah.
Hikers. There's the Bigfoot stories.
Mm-hmm.
There's all these Alaska monsters, Alaska snowy monsters.
Ugh.
So this is written by that guy. What's his name again? I'm gonna go back so that we can give him a shout out. Terry, Terrye Toombs, published in 2012.
Okay.
On the Alaska Daily News.
Gotcha.
So that was his little story about his experience as a child seeing an Alaska monster.
And that's crazy because obviously out in that type of, you're just in wilderness country, you're in God's country at that point. We don't have any.
Mm-hmm.
It's funny because every time I try to go on a podcast or something, the people are like, "Oh yeah, where are you from? And I'm like, Maryland. Like, we don't have any of that sort of stuff. Really, like,
Yeah.
you know, you're not in the wilderness. But
if you go into our mountains, our Appalachian mountains.
that is true.
Yeah.
But what I'm saying
And
is
our
like,
Snallygaster.
oh, so. But when Dad tells you like he's like heavily armed and it's like time to go,
Yeah, time to go, kids.
that's yeah.
Because
Ooh.
usually it's like a grizzly bear or a polar bear,
And that's the same thing. Like everyone's like, yep, nope, it doesn't smell like a bear.
yeah.
It wasn't bear tracks. Like it
Yeah.
was not a bear.
So there's also, I'm not going to go really deep into these stories because we're going to like run out of time. But there's another one called an Adlet, A-D-L-E-T, and it's supposed to be like the Alaskan werewolf. Okay, so there's another really cool Alaska legend that I love. This is another Inuit legend. It's the Adlet, A-D-L-E-T. And it's a race of people that have said to have the upper body of a human and the lower body of a dog. Typically believed to be the offspring of an Inuit woman and a dog brought about through an unnatural mating. This is gross. But, so, the Inuit woman gave birth to 10 children. Half were dogs, and the other half were Adlet. The family was sent to a remote island because they were so voracious, and they would hunt people.
What
you know?
year was this?
This is just a legend. It's
Oh,
an
okay,
Inuit
gotcha.
legend.
Yeah.
So every day, the dog husband was supposed to swim from the island to the mainland, where the grandfather was supposed to fill a pair of boots wrapped around the dog's neck with meat. Eventually, the grandfather filled the boots with rocks, drowning the husband. This is like a really crazy legend. So, blah, blah, blah. The Adlet are portrayed as aggressive savages who will attack men when they cross their paths. Although the Adlet legend is based in far north mythology, a version of the story also appears in Greenland, where the Adlet are instead dubbed, I can't say this, it's Erquigdilt. I can't pronounce that. A few researchers have linked it to the European tales of the werewolf.
Oh.
Yeah.
And where the footprints end. So this is really cool. Like, so Timothy Renner kind of puts together this whole idea of like he calls it a Wildniegeist.
Ooh.
So Wildniegeist. So it's kind of like the idea that like Bigfoot really isn't like as much of a, I guess, like a solid form than as like a ghost, because there's so many elements of Bigfoot stories that kind of seem more like
Supernatural.
yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So this says, and this is from Where the Footprints End, Volume 1. The end of 1951 wrecked Anna Duraba. The Ukrainian immigrant had invited her 14-year-old niece, Kathleen, to winter with her in British Columbia, only to find her tiny 4-room cottage under attack. Something began violently smashing outer walls and breaking windows. Countless visitors and neighbors heard the rappings, sometimes as many as 30 in one evening. A brief respite in the siege occurred when she, at the urging of her priest, vacated the premises for 10 days. The activity, however, picked up right where it left off upon her return. So this is from the sheriff's office. Employee A.J. Edwards reported, "I have heard the sounds on 4 occasions. In each case, they have come as rapid, violent rappings on the outer wall near a window. All persons in the house were within my range of vision on these occasions, with the exception of Mr. Ruba's teenage niece, who was asleep in her bedroom. Each time I ran outside, but could see no one, although the house was fully floodlit. On the 4 occasions when I heard the sounds, they came between 8 p.m. and midnight. I am told they have been heard regularly during the day as well as at night. Windows have been broken on several occasions, including one kitchen window, which was broken after it had been protected by a wire screen and sheet of plastic. The case, the Chilliwack poltergeist, shares similarities with quite a few Class B reports. Coming from the German Poltern to knock and Geist, spirit, poltergeists have been reported for millennia around the world, wreaking havoc in victims' homes. So this is just kind of like, it goes on about like more poltergeist stuff. And then it goes on to say, since poltergeists are unilaterally reported around agents' homes, it is obvious why few parapsychologists have ever entertained the notion of a wilderness poltergeist, or to coin a phrase, a Wildniegeist, considering it opens up a new realm of possibilities in many cases. The only thing differentiating poltergeist cases from Class B reports is their setting. Could the phenomenon taking place in an outdoor environment, where it is less likely to be labeled as such, explain both poltergeist cases and Class B reports where Bigfoot is not observed? So I just thought that was interesting, because we were trying to like kind of find things that were like a little bit wintry.
Yeah.
And you hear a lot of cases where people, you know, are kind of inside for the winter and they still hear knocking on the outside of their house, or a lot of the times trailers.
Yeah.
And then when they go to observe, there's nothing there.
That's awesome.
Yeah. So it seems like this is something that is kind of being put together in this book. I've never heard of it before. And I thought that was really, really interesting.
That is.
Let me see if there's another one.
It definitely reminds me of like a Bigfoot thing. You know?
Oh, absolutely.
Bigfoot knocking on your cabin's windows.
I know. Let me see here. And it goes on. Obviously there's so much research about poltergeists, but nothing that kind of puts the two together, which I kind of...
The wild man and the poltergeist.
Yeah, it always goes back to like that wild man thing. Yeah. Let's see. He gets back into... So when he says, I think with Class B, that gets back into... I don't really know how the classes go with like the BFRO and stuff like that. I feel like a Class B is...
Class A is like actual like footage.
Like footage, yeah.
Class B is like a bunch of people hearing the same thing.
And there's nothing that they actually saw.
Yeah, there's no footage. It's just reported.
Yeah. And then it goes into like throwing stones. Let's see. Yeah, rapping in prints. Disembodied voices. Ugh. Oh, this gets into like the Sierra sounds.
Oh, I love the Sierra sound. That's one of my favorite episodes on that what's that one podcast that we like? The Creatures.
Sasquatch Chronicles?
Yeah, that's it. Sasquatch Chronicles.
Yeah. Oh, this is crazy. Okay, so this is actually from the book Skating with Bigfoot by Renee DeCare. Chapter 20. It says 1978, lady wakes up to peering Bigfoot. Imagine falling asleep by yourself on a mountaintop after your hiking companions leave you. Then waking up to see a Bigfoot has been watching you. That's what happened to a mapping expert who was climbing with friends on Green Mountain in northern Washington state. In 1978, Mildred Quinn was camping by herself at about 6,000 feet because she was a novice climber and had gotten too tired to continue with her climbing group. They left to continue their final ascent while Quinn stayed behind. Her account appeared in the January 12, 1978 edition of the Portland Journal. Quinn, a cartographer, or a technician with the Bureau of Land Management's Technical Services Division, recounted her story, which took place on the mountain about 100 miles from the Canadian border in the northern Cascades. She had awakened from an afternoon nap when she spotted the creature about 80 feet away. It was a formidable black figure, quote, almost human-like, with long hairy arms and legs and huge shoulders, she said. I looked away for a minute, hoping that I was dreaming, but as I forced myself to look again, he was still standing on his two legs like a human, looking at me, and the dog that had accompanied our party, she said. It was covered with long black fur, which seemed to stand out as if it were in a static electric position. Ooh. It was leaning against a rock looking at me, Quinn said. Fearful, she said she closed her eyes to pray to God, and when she opened her eyes, the Sasquatch was gone. Speaking to the reporter about coming forward to share her story, Quinn said she didn't have a motive. It's not that I want to impress anybody, Quinn said, but I know what I saw.
Oh, I know what I saw.
I know what I saw.
Oh, she had a dog with her. That's good. I just thought she was completely by herself. Thank God she had a dog.
But then, like, the creature, like, had its hair stand on its leg. Like, ew. It's like what is, ew.
And he's like, hey, baby.
Gross.
I'm
it's like leering. Yeah.
Electric Ladyland.
What's happening here? Weird.
I don't know.
That is very weird. We don't like that one. From the same book, Skating with Bigfoot, Washington woman firm on her Sasquatch sighting. By the 1970s, Sasquatch sightings were prolific. To be sure, there were many hoaxes, but many credible citizens were stepping up to say they too had seen the famous creature, like a woman from Skamania, Washington. The woman's story, now 53 years old, is preserved in a digital archive from KGW News in Portland, Oregon. She tells her story, now accessible on YouTube, sorry, there's a whole bunch of fire going in my face.
Fireface.
We're in the wild tonight. Oh my gosh. To then KGW reporter John Tuttle, who interviewed her in 1971. In 1976, the New York Times also included her in a story about Bigfoot sightings, according to the information on the YouTube site. The woman, identified only as Mrs. Baxter, without her first name, but a report on the internet listed her first name as Louise, describes coming face to face with the creature near Beacon Rock State Park. It is adjacent to the Columbia River in Washington State. She tells the reporter as she was driving, she first heard a womp womp sound that made her think something was wrong with her Volkswagen Beetle.
Aww.
Assuming she might have a flat tire, she pulled over, got out of her car to examine the tires. She had the feeling of being watched. She turned around and saw a 12-foot tall Bigfoot about 15 feet from her.
Holy moly, 12 feet tall.
Ooh. Ugh.
Ooh.
I'm so sorry, Louise. Mrs. Baxter.
Mrs. Baxter.
At first, she would only go by Mrs. Baxter. Oh my god. Well, I think that's probably... Wait, did you have another one?
No, I don't have any more stories. No.
Okay.
Yeah, I think I did them all.
Yeah. I think that's gonna do it. Yeah, as we're reporting live from the Planet Parade.
The Planet Parade.
There is no such thing happening right now in the suburbs of Baltimore County.
Well, I think there is. I think we just can't recognize it because we don't know what we're looking at.
I mean,
there's a bright one there. There's a bright one there.
I honestly don't see anything outside of what I usually see when I'm out here having a fire, so.
Yeah.
Hopefully you guys have seen something better of a Planet Parade and you can let us know. But, yeah, so this is going to do it for our quick little, just, I guess, reintroduction to the podcast after all of our winter.
Well, we'll get back into it. Spring is coming. We'll be able to go outdoors again.
Exactly.
It's freezing cold.
I know.
And that's why we did our winter episode.
Exactly. So I hope you guys enjoyed. As always, please just like, share, subscribe, and follow us on Instagram. That's where we pretty much do a lot of our communicating and stuff like that. Especially when things go awry and we can't record like we want to. So until next time.
Bye, everybody.
Bye.
You have been listening to Sasquatch and Sourdough. I'm Christina, and thank you so much for tuning in. Sasquatch and Sourdough is so much more than just a podcast. We're a community of kindred spirits, united by our curiosity and fascination with the extraordinary. And we want to bring you into the conversation. So whether you've had a brush with the unexplainable, seen something that you can't quite wrap your head around, this is your space. We invite you to join us as we break bread and break down the barriers between the known and the unknown. If you want to share your story, you can email us at sasquatchandsourdough@gmail.com or send us a DM on Instagram. Until next time, remember, the truth is out there, God is with you, and everyone always ends up in the kitchen.